Sleeping in Hawaii. This is Bob Gums. I'm bringing you the Concerned Forum. I had really planned to keep this show on the even keel. Basically doing maybe like two, three videos a week. But there seems to be so much, so many things happening. Bang, 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 one right after the other. And there's a few things I want to speak on. Um, but let me begin. As a matter of fact, I think I might begin every program by reciting this. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. You know who said that? Thomas Jefferson. Okay. Um, I have some bones to pick with old TJ, but when it comes to government, democracy, etc., I think he had most of it correct. Now, where are we? Oh yes. Charlie Kirk got murdered. And I tell you what really ticks me off, all this cattle warring, even by those who are supposedly our friends, moderates. Mm. And this whole bullshit, and that's what it is. The flag at half mast, a middle of freedom. Now, let's take a look at old Charlie Kirk. This is the guy that said that black women are stupid. Black women steal spots in college. I assume he's saying that they steal spots in college from white guys. Um, and he says, when I see black pilots, he gets on the plane and he happens to notice that the pilot is, black or a woman. Uh, he says he gets to worry. What else? Martin Luther King was an evil man, and that black people are generally violent. Okay. And guess what? He thinks that we were better off during slavery. Here goes a good one. The Civil Rights Bill of 64, which, by the way, would not have passed if it were not for Republicans in the Senate, he says that was a great mistake. Now, a lot of you are too young to remember, but black people did not become full-fledged American citizens until 1964. Well, 64, 65, right? And I know a lot of you out there think that's really whacked up. That's crazy. It can't be. Well, yeah, it's true. Because for the most part, in many parts of the South, you couldn't vote. Black people could not vote, period. See? And that's the reason why you have the Civil Rights Bill of 64. And I believe it was the Voting Rights Act of 65 that went along with that. See? But Charlie Kirk, he felt that that was a great mistake, right? The people that basically gave this country its economy, that built the basis for what became the American empire, the idea that those people were going to be treated like American citizens, in his mind, that was a mistake. So you see, when people talk about, oh well, slavery happened so long ago, and what was it, 1863, Lincoln signed the Emancipation, blah blah blah. Hey, yeah, okay. Remember, Lincoln got assassinated for his trouble. Number one. And number two, Reconstruction lasted about what, 1868 to about 1876. After that, it was essentially downhill for the newly freed freedmen. So, no, black people did not become, at least on paper, technically, full participating American citizens. until earliest 1964. So I think you need to, folks out there need to remember that. And remember that Charlie Kirk said that that was a big mistake. So you figure that one out. No, okay, where was I? Black people are violent. No, I think I already did that one. White privilege is a myth. Now, when you look at all the redlining, uh, that really, it's still prevalent in certain areas of this country. But when you're talking about the latter half of the 19th century, going into the 20th century, all the way up until the 70s, really 80s actually, redlining was a real thing. Okay, which confined black people into ghettos, um, certain sections of housing, what have you. And that in and of itself shows white privilege. It was not a myth anymore than CRT, or the critical race theory, is a myth. It's real. It was and is real. What else did he say? Oh yeah, George Floyd was a scumbag. Okay. I mean, this is Charlie Kirk, right? This ain't me. I'm reading this. I took notes looking through the internet. Some of the things that he had to say. This is what the guy said, right? George Floyd was a scumbag. Now I'm trying to figure out: was George Floyd a Wall Street banker or entrepreneur? No, he was just a dude, a regular guy. Um, did he deserve to die? Did he deserve to have his life crushed out by a racist police officer with his knee on the man's neck? I don't think so. Okay, I really don't think so. That's something that went around the world, by the way. The meaning of that, I'll get to in a few moments. Let me see what else now. The great replacement theory. This is a theory that somehow, that's what they were talking about. Remember when Trump first, around the time he first got elected, and you had these young white men with tiki torches marching around? What was that? Someplace in Charlottesville, Virginia? And what were they saying? The Jews shall not replace us. Hmm. Okay, replacement theory. Well, I don't know really how you replace people, to be honest about it. I thought that the basic thing about replacement was you get together with a lady and boom, 9 months later, things happen, right? Now, I don't understand why you're going to hold a particular racial group responsible for the fact that maybe you are not procreating. And ooh, this is very itchy territory. Um, so you have young white men claiming that black people are trying to replace them, when what we're talking about is procreation. And I'm here to say that black men are not responsible for the level at which white Americans procreate. I mean, what is it? I mean, you want us to give you lessons? I don't get that. I really don't understand. People are born, people die. Okay, that's the circle of life. And if you feel that somehow you're not getting your full share or advantage or opportunity in the circle of life, yo, man, it's not my fault. Okay? So this whole thing about somebody trying to replace white folk, that's ridiculous. quite frankly. Because that, my friends, that's an equal opportunity adventure. All right? Don't blame me. Okay, I'm over 65. I put three kids out in this world. Okay? If I'm not, I wasn't trying to replace anyone. Okay, I enjoyed the creation of them, and I hope that I did as well as I possibly could by them. But don't hold me responsible for your what do you call them, people incels. Don't hold me responsible for that. I mean, if you can't find, if some of you guys could not make yourself attractive to women of your same race, cultural background, whatever, that's not my problem, brother. I mean, it's not. And for you to try and make a whole theory and try to tear the country apart because you can't get laid, don't blame black people. It's not right. How about that? That's all I have to say on that subject. I'm sorry, Charlie. I'm not going to deal with that one anymore. I said what I had to say. Black crime, major issues. So, in other words, black people are demons because we kill other black people. But white people do not kill other white people. Is that what Kirk was trying to say? I don't know. I mean, for you and MAGA, he was your hero, not mine. You figure it out. Okay? And listen now. Juneteenth threatens the fabric of the United States. Okay, what is Juneteenth? You know what Juneteenth was? Juneteenth was something that was essentially celebrated in Texas, Arizona, mainly in the Southwest. Okay, because especially at that time, of transportation being what it was, communication being what it was, a lot of folks in the Southwest were not aware of certain things as they happened, like Emancipation Proclamation, uh, Appomattox Courthouse in 1865, when Lee surrendered the Confederate Army, things like that, right? So apparently, black folks in the Southwest, many of them did not know or find out until they saw Union soldiers marching into their area, and that was like around June of 1865. Okay, now I'm curious. Hmm, yeah, Charlie Kirk and his ilk, they claim to be, oh, well, America, who are others? America above all. And we're glorious, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand that. I really don't get that. Why in the hell a nation that overthrew the institution of slavery, that said, "Hey, here's the liberty. Here's the light of liberty throughout the world. We did it. We got rid of slavery." Why would you not, as a patriotic, loyal American, why would you not want that celebrated? I, I'm not that bright, but maybe you can explain that to me. Um, why that should not be a federal holiday? Why that should not be a thing of joy, right up there with the 4th of July, the Declaration of Independence. I thought that that's what being in America was all about. Okay? And now, oh goodness. Now, this business about every year, 600 white women are killed apparently by black men. I'm going to really have to look. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to really look that one up. Okay. I was so busy taking notes. That's something I should have looked into. Um, But to me, it doesn't sound practical. But he's not. I guess he's not speaking about the amount of white men who beat and kill their spouses, girlfriends, what have you. You know, and to just lay that all on black men, that seems, to me, that seems a bit strange. Now, he also justified the mass killing of black Americans and Jewish Americans. Church murders, guy went in the synagogue and stabbed 11 Jewish Americans to death. A whole bunch of those things. The guy down in somewhere in Texas, he shot up a whole bunch of Latino Americans. And Charlie said that that was cool. He justified that. Okay. So much for law and order. Hey, Charlie. Okay. Now, he also said that he doesn't believe in empathy. Now, this is a guy, Mr. White, nationalist, Christian, red, white, and blue America. Okay. Now, from what I can remember, when I was an altar boy at St. Thomas the Apostle, and my home teacher was Sister Mary St. Raphael, that wonderful, lovely, skinny as a rail, but she had a right that would lay you on the floor, that good old Irish nun. I think she was somewhere from Dublin, outside of Dublin. But anyway, uh, what she taught me was that the basic thing about Christianity is brotherhood and empathy. Empathy means that, hey, listen, I don't know about sympathizing with you, but I see you being run over by a dump truck, and you are a human being, and I'm a human being. And when I see your body laying smashed on the road, there's a certain thing inside of me that says, "Hey, man, that's really bad." And I can imagine if that happened to me, and you know, how totally screwed up I would be. See, that's basically what empathy means. Charlie Kirk says that that's bad. You know, uh, Christ feeding the hungry, healing the sick. Apparently, all that was bad. So I'm trying to figure out. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I used to be an altar boy. I had even thought about becoming a priest at one time, and like an African American priest, there was a good friend of mine back in the day, said, yeah, you wanted to preach to it, but one head was bigger than the other. So, I was there. Okay, I'm not religious anymore. Okay, I'm one of those people. Yeah, I'm spiritual. Okay, but I do remember the basic tenets of what the Christ said. Okay, and I find that from my haphazard studies of the world's major religions, I find that like Buddhism, Confucianism, um, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. I mean, they all have this central theme that we are all connected. All people are brothers and sisters. Now we don't act like it most of the time, unfortunately, but that's like a baseline. That's where we're supposed to be at. And that to me, in my mind, means empathy. That I have a relation to that guy living in Moscow or London or Gaza. So when Charlie says that empathy is a bad thing, I'm trying to figure out what religious, you know, tenet They, in other words, what the hell is he referring to? That empathy is a bad thing. He was murdered. He left a wife and two little girls. So I guess according to Charlie, I would be wrong to feel the pain that his widow and his two little girls are feeling. Now, I lost my firstborn son to gun violence, right? So, according to Charlie, I would be wrong to feel as a human being with some connection to his widow and children and to his family, his mom and dad, if they're still around, you know. I mean, I think that Charlie was an SOB. But as a human being, I can feel for his family. That's empathy. So according to Charlie, I'm totally out to lunch. You figure it out. Now, what else do we have here? Ah, okay. And he says that the deaths of these mass shooters and apparently what happened to him are the price that we have to pay to safeguard our Second Amendment rights. Now, am I wrong or non-empathetic or unfeeling when I say that, hey, listen, according to his own words, Charlie was the greatest symbol for not having gun control, right? Not, not trying to get around the Second Amendment. So, according to Charlie's logic, him being shot in the throat and being murdered is necessary for me to maintain, or excuse me, for us to maintain our freedom under the Second Amendment. So, what are we saying? That Charlie Kirk was a martyr for the Second Amendment that he preached? And am I wrong for saying that? I mean, I didn't say this, he did. I'm just making an observation. So, I don't know. You tell me. He also had this idea that if a 10-year-old girl is raped or seduced, even especially by a family member, that she should be forced to carry the pregnancy all the way, right? Now, I'll be honest about it, because I talk about being a former altar boy. So obviously, I was a Roman Catholic. Now, let's not get it twisted. I love the late Pope Francis, and I love the Pope that we have now. But on this point, I'm sorry. I guess maybe it's the American in me. I disagree. Okay. I don't think that any woman should be hog tied or strapped down and forced to deliver. I'm sorry. I just don't believe that. Okay. Apparently, Charlie did. So that's, to be frank about it, uh, for you ladies out there, that's something for you to have to figure out. And especially you Republican and conservative women that want to put out the national crying towel for Charlie Kirk. So you have to deal with that in your own conscience. I know. I'm not a woman. I can't do that. Right? Um, I mean, I just, some things I just don't understand. Now, this whole business about, oh, well, excuse me, hmm, no one is allowed to comment or say anything that might be taken as negative towards Charlie Kirk. Okay. It puts me in mind back in the 30s, um, as the Western world was getting ready to gear up for World War II, we had a black heavyweight champion named Joe Louis. Every time he fought down south, the black people would have to be very quiet, caulk the windows and everything. Because down south, black people were not allowed to cheer openly because this black fighter would, be the white guy in the ring. And unfortunately, this is the same type of thing that I see happening now. Oh, well, we have to speak nice about Charlie Kirk, right? Which is kind of, I don't know, that's kind of like asking a rabbi to say some kind words at the memorial service for Adolf Hitler, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's where I see it. You know. Now, I understand that this guy Jesse Waters at Fox made some very horrendous statements about, and he made these statements before he even knew just what the hell happened, right? Oh, did it? Well, we're declaring war. Now, what I don't understand is that, across the country, people are getting fired for just saying, hey, well, uh, sorry that excuse me, that Charlie was, murdered, but he wasn't a nice guy. And people are being fired, suspended, ridiculed, what have you. Now, Jesse Waters comes and he declares war on everybody that doesn't have political opinion that he does. But that's okay because it's Fox. And by the way, that's the same Fox that had to pay almost $1 billion for lying about the 2020 election. Okay. And I find that so strange. Uh, in a sane world, Jesse Waters will be out the door. I feel bad saying that because I really dig his mom. His mom is cool, but I don't know. Being a parent myself, sometimes the kids they go their own way. Or what can you say, right? But no, Jesse should be out there looking for employment because he basically is trying to say that when we are going at war, we're going to war with everybody that doesn't believe the way that we believe. War. I wonder, does Jesse have any idea what war is about? I find it so strange. I mean, I looked something down here. Ah, Stephen Miller, Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Jesse Waters, and that other genius on Fox. What's his name? Gutfeld with them. And I looked, I searched for their military background. They don't have one. It's funny, man. These guys that they're like the little punks in the schoolyard, and they're friends with the big bully, and they're running around saying, "Hey, listen, you give me your lunch money, or I'm gonna sick my guy on you." That's what Jesse Waters reminds me of. And he's a freaking pansy, as well as gut gut Gutfeld, whatever. You know, um, the black guy that they have on the five, I guess he's there for artistic purposes because I haven't heard anything come out of his mouth since he got the job. But I guess he's also there to signify that yes, we are a right wing conservative network, but we're not racist because we have our own, personal Sambos sitting up here with us. So, I don't see him for talk because I'm educated and I know the history of Harriet Beecher's still great novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. And people don't realize that the biggest crime of Uncle Tom was that he was naive. But he was not a backstabbing bastard. That was Sambo. And talking on the black side, we have what, Stephen Miller, um, what is that boy's name? Yes, excuse me, Stephen Smith, Brian Daniels, that clown senator from South Carolina, people like that. These are 21st century Sambos. Okay. But another point I wanted to bring about, we talk about free speech. What is this now? That only right wing racists and fascists have free speech, but those of us on the left, we have to watch what we say. Oh, oh my goodness! Don't teach American history. Oh, for God's sake, no, 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 no. And I'm just wondering, when in the hell are American people going to grow up? Quite frankly, um, the greatest thing a person can do. What is it? Oh God, so many quotes. The greatest thing a warrior can do is to conquer himself, conquer his own fears and trepidations. And countries, to a large extent, they're just like people. They're just like men. They have growing pains. They make mistakes. And the whole thing about making mistakes is that you're supposed to learn from them. How can you learn from anything if you don't know, if you're not allowed to learn? See? And I feel that's one of the biggest problems that I have with people on the right. Now, you have folks saying, oh, well, he was killed for his political opinions. Well, we have to, I think it's a little bit more complex than that. Yeah. Because when you're saying things that are making me a target, is that a political opinion? Or is that an incitement to do harm to me and people that look like me? Is that a way of denying my citizenship? And see, I tell you quite frankly, I take my citizenship very seriously. Um, Family law says that on my mom's side, we've been here in America since the 1680s. I have a bunch of family members that fought, some died, and just about every war this country is fought. And I tell you quite frankly, I'm over 65 now, and I would be damned if I tiptoe around like some kind of snowflake asking people to say, oh, well, please treat me like an American. I'm not going to do that. My folks helped build this, no, not helped, actually started building, were the ones that started this country off. There would be no American empire if it wasn't for slavery. And sometimes I get tired of saying things that all people have to do is go into the library and read it for themselves. Or look on videos. I mean, we still have videos of people who were actually enslaved. Back in the 80s, when Virginia elected its first black governor, this guy, he had grandparents that were held in chattel slavery. Now, you have two sorts of people. You have people who don't know about these things: slavery, Jim Crow, the lynchings, the burning down of towns, uh, of black areas. And then you have the other type of people who don't want to know. And, I just, I marvel at this. I think that one of the problems with Charlie Kirk was the same problem that Adolf Hitler had. Nah, don't start yelling, right? Adolf Hitler felt that he was a great artist, remember? If you know about the whole Hitler thing, right? He felt that he was a great artist and that he should be admitted into the, what is it, Vienna School of Architecture or Art or what have you. And they turned him down. They didn't think he was qualified. Well, I found out Charlie Kirk had a similar uh, problem. He tried to get into West Point, be an Army officer, right? Hmm. He was rejected. Yep. He was rejected. He was rejected from West Point, being admitted to West Point. I think probably what really pissed him off was that maybe he saw a white female or maybe a black female or a black guy who actually were admitted. And I guess that's what probably sent him off the deep edge. See? But you'll be surprised what people do when they feel rejection. Trust me. Okay. Ever have a girl just say, listen, I'm just not into you? you know, well, magnify that about 10 times to a young kid that's been turned down for admission into West Point. And my personal opinion, I think that that is what a large part of Charlie's ideas and anger, I think that's what a lot of it comes from. Okay. Now, oh, I got some of these stuff, jotted down. It's my understanding that the New York Yankees, my home team, or should I say what used to be my home team, and I'm a Bronx resident from Harlem, but I'm, living in the Bronx. These clowns actually had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. Now, if I'm wrong about this, I guess my email thing is up there somewhere. Somebody please contact me and tell me that I'm mistaken. But I'm trying to figure out why in the hell a professional Major League Baseball team would hold, in New York at that, in a northern blue state at that, would hold a moment of silence for a guy that basically felt that blacks in professional sports didn't belong and were basically involved in trying to steal spots from white people, from white guys. Yankee Stadium, if you know the Bronx, everybody around Yankee Stadium, living around the Yankee Stadium area, is African American or Latino. I know we get into this thing. I know because my old man was born in the American Virgin Islands, but his father was Dominican and his mother was Haitian. So we get into this thing about, yeah, well, I might look black, but I am, oh, what is that word? Indigo or what have you, you know. But be it as it may, Yankee Stadium is smack dab in the middle of a whole area. of dark people, right? And you're going to have a moment of silence for a guy that says that people of color are inferior. Now, that's what I saw on the internet. And if I'm wrong about that, someone please correct me. And I will happily back down off of that. But until somebody shows me that I was wrong, no, I ain't backing down off jack shit. Okay? And it will be a cold day in hell before I ever support the New York Yankees again. Right? Call me a Mets fan. Okay? Seriously. And this business about what is Trump doing now? The flag at half mast, a medal of freedom. You know, it's some of it is common sense, some of it's good manners. Uh, you know that 46%, over 46% of the American military are made up of people of color, right? Black Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, Indigenous Americans. And you, the commander in chief, Mr. Trump, you're going to put a flag at the half mast for a racist that, he held no political office. So it ain't like you had to do it. And on top of that, award this clown with a Medal of Freedom? Yes, I said clown. Okay. No, he did not deserve to be murdered. But the things that he said, as far as I'm concerned, he was a jerk. Okay. I'm sorry. You're not going to insult, you're not going to insult me, my forebears, okay, or people that look like me and expect me to shed a bunch of bullshit crocodile tears. I'm not going to do that. Now, I know you have a lot of, I'm sorry to say, many African Americans that are doing that. I can't speak for them. I can't speak for their conscience. And yes, the political discourse in this country sucks. It's in the toilet. All right? There's no two ways about it. But I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, well, it's the left. No. Where was this outpouring of grief for the elected state, what is it, in the state of Minnesota, right? And her husband, who were blown away by this Trump supporter, and who had earlier tried to blow away two other Democrats. There was no flag and a half mast for them. Are they any less? And what about all these children that have been blown away, right, in these mass shootings, right? All these, the last few years, all the people have been blown away in these mass shooting episodes. But you are essentially going to hold and half, flag and half mast and award this guy who's as far as I'm concerned, one of the people that is responsible for this. You encourage the idea of the other. That's why I'm not surprised that Charlie Kirk was murdered. Because you can inspire violence by your talk. Look, sometimes the things that we say out of our mouths follow us home. Okay? Like a wise man once said, chickens do come home to roost. That doesn't mean that I approve of him being murdered, especially by somebody that shared the same kind of nutty worldview that he did. His children deserve to have a father. His wife deserves to have a husband. But the man, he preached hate. He preached lies. He preached hate. And he preached divisiveness. And I'm not gonna back off of that. Okay. And I tell you something else that Americans need to think about, right? The West, looking at France, for example, you know, it's in a very precarious economic strait. Okay, uh, I think one of the main reasons for that is because African nations are basically saying, no, you cannot come and rape us of our raw materials and leave us donuts. See. Now, let me give you some brutal facts here. America makes up less than 4% of the total population of the planet. Okay, I'm not saying that America needs to bow down and kiss feet and everything like that, but what America needs to learn how to do is to treat people from different cultures and different countries with the same respect that they want for themselves. We have a situation in Africa where you got a president, Trump. He's already referred to African nations as shithole countries. Yet he's trying to do something wicked and evil, deporting people from the United States who he doesn't like, who he doesn't think are worthy of humanity like he himself is. And he wants to ship them to these same shithole countries, as he said. Here's the bottom line of what I'm saying is that we are at a crossroads, America. We have economic problems, big economic problems. We have a problem in terms of the disparity of wealth. Some people are using that and trying to fan the flames of racial and gender hatred to keep people's mind off of what's actually happening. See? And the idea that we have a president that essentially wants to declare war on our cities and war on people who don't share his political views, I think is quite problematic. See? And I think it's wrong in America that Charlie Kirk, and I don't know how his family feels about this, but they're trying to turn Charlie Kirk into that song, Horse, Horst, Wessel. I'm probably getting the last part wrong. Horst Wessel anthem. You know who Horst Wessel was? Mm. Horst was let me see if I got this right. He was basically a barroom brawler. Okay, wasn't an intellectual, wasn't a scholar. He was just a kind of like that guy that's in charge of ICE, hosting the Holman, someone like that. And he got killed supposedly for fighting some German Jews. And from what I understand, he had it coming, right? But the Nazis took it, and oh yeah, he was also a pimp, if I'm not mistaken. And the Nazis took this guy's death and they turned it into some kind of heroic anthem. Okay. No, I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk was a pimp or anything, but I'm saying it's a very similar type deal, right? And that's what they're trying to do with Charlie Kirk. And I'm not, I'm not going for it. Okay. I've seen a few blacks, few so-called moderate whites, like Morning Joe, uh, crying, oh, our politics has gotten so violent and blah, blah, blah. Listen, what do you do with a problem? Hmm? You try to find a solution. Okay. You try to find out, well, shit, what the hell happened here? Why is this like that? Okay. Well, for the last 15, 20 years, the so-called left, which some things I do have problems with verbally, but generally, they have not been the ones responsible for attacking people, beating up people, attacking Democrats. Where was the outrage? And I am no Pelosi fan. Okay, I'm one of those base Democrats leaning socialists. Okay, so I'm not a great fan of Nancy Pelosi. But when their husband was almost murdered in his own home, where was the outrage then? As a matter of fact, Donald Trump made it try to make a joke out of it. Remember? See, maybe I should be a Republican because there's something as the elephant, and the elephant never forgets. So I don't know what the hell with this should be this Republican Party of today because they seem to want to forget everything. But yeah, I remember that. Remember? Uh huh. And when Donald Trump incited the mob to tear down our national capital, and he was sitting in front of the television laughing about it, thinking it was real cool. And police officers were beaten. I think one or two died as a result of what happened on that January 6th. See, I don't like selective outrage. Okay, between my parents and between my Catholic school training, I was taught that wrong is wrong is wrong. And this business about, oh, well, we're only going to, chastise and come down on people that criticize us. No, it's nonsense. That's not America. That's not the American way. At least not the America that I was raised in. So, you know. But to try to wrap this thing up, listen, what happened to Charlie Kirk was wrong. Okay. It's wrong in a democracy to start trying to kill people that disagree with you. But by the same token, we have to remember, okay, that when you speak in a way that you try to alienate other people and make them liable for violence, yeah, karma does have the last word. And you can say being religious, you can say being spiritual, um, you could say just being a person, right? Or as we say in the hood, what goes around comes around. You keep putting out bad vibes are going to come back to you. And it's just that simple. And I repeat, no, what happened to Charlie Kirk was wrong. Makes no difference who did it. Okay? We're not, we're America. We're not supposed to be living in a state of nature. But if you can, but when a person constantly keeps putting out, it's just like with Trump, right? Yeah, you said that people like my grandmother and other folks stole dogs and cats from their neighbors and ate them, right? And lo and behold, what happens? All those Haitians that were invited to come to Ohio, they were harassed, beaten, what have you, threatened. Well, see, words have power. And hey, look, I'm an ardent defender of free speech. Okay. But it's just like the vote, right? A lot of people voted for Trump because they wanted to hurt other people. And now those same people, the election's over, Trump's in the White House, Now those same people are desperate. I'm not making that up. Go out to the heartland, talk to all those farmers out there who are begging for socialist help because they are suffering from because they voted for a guy that wanted to wage a tariff war against the whole world. Okay? The things that we do, we're held accountable for. Seriously, every adult should know that. Okay? We all screw up. That's how we learn. The problem I have with the United States is that we keep screwing up, but a lot of us, we refuse to learn. You know, what gives Charlie Kirk the right to say, excuse me, what gives Charlie Kirk the right to say that black women are stupid, right? What gives Charlie Kirk the right to say that black women are stupid and they're stealing spots from white men in college, right? What was he trying to incite? Seriously. Right now, historically black colleges and universities are being attacked. Is that right? No, no black person had anything to do with it. But see, that's the mindset that we have cultivated in America ever since 2016. And if you seriously think, look at what happened with South Korea. I can just about guarantee you that they're not going to be breaking their necks to try and put any kind of investment into the United States. See, this particular administration feels that people of color are somehow non-human. Okay, and this racist attitude carries into our foreign policy. That's why we still have the massacre, the genocide in Gaza, and that's why we have the problems that we're starting to see in South Africa. You have a part in South Africa where people are trying to break away in the western portion, okay? And I do suspect that you have certain American and Western corporate, shall we say, mischief making, okay? And that's what happens when you have a foreign policy that you think that two-thirds of the world is somehow subhuman or beneath you. That's what happened with India. That's why India is shaking hands with China. Because you have this administration in the White House that feels that people of color are somehow less. I don't give a damn if you have Cash Patel sitting at the head of the FBI or not. As far as I'm concerned, you cry about DEI. That's a DEI hire right there. So that's what I have to say about the whole Charlie Kirk, the unfortunate incident. And you want to curse me out? Be my guest. But I'm not backing off of it. I'm sorry. I'm over 65 now. I'm starting to see I'm gonna have to go. I'm going through the whole goddamn thing that we went through in the '60s. I thought that that was all behind us, but we have forces that are trying to stir it up for their own greedy self-interest because they feel it's much easier to divide people with hate than to do the things for this country that would benefit all Americans. And I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it. You know, I served my country. I think I served it well. And to see the state that our politics are in, I'm just, anyway, look, I hope you like what I had to say. If you did, please give me a little check mark there on YouTube. And if you didn't, at least have the respect to listen to what I had to say. I can't do any more than that. Listen, bless you all. This is Bob Gums with the Concerned Forum. Take care take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And please, peace. Good night.